In America, we live by law and order. Unless you're a Democrat, then you live by different rules.
Federal prosecutors are now investigating a 2017 leak of classified information about a Russian intelligence document.
Before it was Mar-a-Lago, it was James Comey and Hillary Clinton.
According to a report from the New York Times, investigators are reportedly focusing on whether former FBI Director James Comey illegally provided details to reporters.
And it damn sure wasn't a Fox News reporter either.
I'm here to give you an update on the FBI's investigation of Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email system during her time as Secretary of State.
We just gonna talk about the emails, not all the murders or all the stuff she did in Benghazi or all the money she took in Haiti. We just gonna leave all that alone right now. Next! If you treated Donald Trump like you treated Hillary Clinton, the country wouldn't be so divided right now.
Sources tell ABC News that the unprecedented search was part of an investigation into Mr. Trump's alleged mishandling of classified documents.
If Donald Trump mishandled information, then Hillary Clinton dismantled information.
John, thanks very much for joining us. This is truly an extraordinarily rare move by the Department of Justice. In your decades of legal work, including serving as President Nixon's White House counsel, have you ever seen anything like this?
Hell no. And that's the same thing I asked my psychiatrist when I showed him a naked picture of my baby mama.
Nothing. It was actually a brilliant move given the circumstances. What Trump did is he took his right of privacy about what was going on. Just as he was served a subpoena, he told nobody. When he had a search at his property, he could have told nobody, but he decided the opposite.
Because he wanted to give the American people a heads up. Next! If all cases are equal, that means Donald Trump, if he's guilty, gonna get a slap on the wrist.
After a tremendous amount of work over the last year, the FBI is completing its investigation and referring the matter to the Department of Justice for a prosecutive decision.
But Donald Trump didn't get charged with a lot more. He got charged with a lot less and got his damn house raided for it too.
So George, when you look at the charges being investigated here tonight and the list of what was taken, as far as you can go through it, and there's a lot of classified information on there, do you think Trump's in real trouble here?
Yeah, I think he's in a very substantial legal jeopardy. I mean,
he put out a really dubious press release where he attacked the institution, where he laid doubt about the process. And I think it was a foolish move, and it's going to come back and bite him, Wolf.
I mean, having top secret SCI information in our home, that you're not allowed to bring that out. You're not allowed to bring that home. And that people have been charged for a lot less.
Hillary Clinton was.
But some legal and national security experts think the investigation might be broader than that.
Hillary Clinton, a slap on the wrist. Donald Trump gets charged with being a KGB agent.
What I want to do today is three things. I want to tell you what we did, I want to tell you what we found, and I want to tell you what we're recommending to the Department of Justice.
Trump says his attorneys and representatives were cooperating fully with the Department of Justice and the FBI, but does their refusal to unseal this warrant lead you to believe that's the truth?
If Donald Trump said it's the truth, then damn it, it's the truth.
So, Elliot, let's go through this. The search warrant here, as we have it, identifies 3 potential crimes, federal crimes that the Justice Department is investigating Donald J. Trump for. They are violations of the Espionage Act, obstruction of justice, and criminal handling of government records.
Was you talking about Donald Trump? Because Comey leaked information several times.
And the Department of Justice releasing the conclusions of that IG report into how the former FBI Director James Comey handled sensitive information.
It's the second time the Justice Department has investigated leaks potentially involving Comey.
And those memos that he wrote about his interactions with President Trump.
Comey had been cleared before when it was determined information his lawyer gave to the New York Times was not classified.
And the only reason it wasn't classified is because they declassified it. Next! And they reclassified Donald Trump's. They declassified Comey's and upgraded Donald Trump's.
So that's why they took the extreme action they had to take. And from what the reporting is, it indicates this was probably top secret information that Trump has squirreled away and refused to turn over.
Who told you he refused to? The DOJ?
I would be surprised if at the end of the day we learn this was simply an effort by the FBI to retrieve records. There probably is something much more significant there.
Well, at least the FBI gonna say it is.
So any of these three crimes, and we can walk through each of them, but any of them, number one, carries serious penalties and is focused on sometimes gross negligence in just mishandling information.
So Hillary Clinton handling of emails was immaculate.
This is going to be an unusual statement in at least a couple of ways. First, I'm going to include more detail about our process than I ordinarily would.
That is precisely what the Justice Department is doing.
Well, release the affidavit if your ass want to be so damn transparent.
All Americans are entitled to the even-handed application of the law, to due process of the law, and to the presumption of innocence.
Because I think the American people deserve those details in a case of intense public interest.
Faithful adherence to the rule of law is the bedrock principle of the Justice Department and of our democracy. Upholding the rule of law means applying the law evenly, without fear or favor.
Unless you Donald Trump, you guilty. You got to prove you innocent. Next! Because the only interest they got in Donald Trump is locking him up.
Yeah, I mean, the people who are trying to defend Trump are basically desperate. I mean, they've been making all sorts of insane arguments.
The GSA has since come out, the Government Service Administration said they mistakenly packed some boxes and moved them to Mar-a-Lago.
I had a top secret clearance for pretty much my entire time in the federal government at a pretty high level. These are the kinds of documents that just don't get mispacked or put incorrectly, as Kash Patel had said there, in the back of a truck.
That's not on the president. That's on the National Archives to sort that material out.
There's extensive regulations on how they're handled, what kind of room they're in, who can handle them, how they're shredded. Literally, there's regulations on the kind of shredder that can be used to destroy information.
Damn who destroyed the information, who packed the box. Next!
This investigation began as a referral from the Intelligence Community Inspector General in connection with Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email server during her time as Secretary of State.
Hi, Catherine. What more do we know about this new reporting into this new investigation into Comey?
The referral focused on whether classified information was transmitted on that personal system.
You know who hit the emails and leaked the information? You and Hillary.
Well, Tanya, what we know through our reporting at CBS News comes from a single source who confirmed the broad outlines of this investigation, that investigators are looking at a classified leak in 2017, and they are considering whether the former FBI Director James Comey or someone within his inner circle was responsible for that leak.
Our investigation looked at whether there is evidence that classified information was improperly stored or transmitted on that personal system in violation of a federal statute that makes it a felony to mishandle classified information, either intentionally or in a grossly negligent way.
You hear the former president or see him in his statements today saying, I didn't take any classified information.
Or a second statute making it a misdemeanor to knowingly remove classified information from appropriate systems or storage facilities.
But what you're reporting is, reading these laws, is that's not necessarily relevant. Can you explain that?
No, bitch. We're going to let James Comey explain.
Now, I have so far used the singular term email server in describing the referral that began our investigation. It turns out to have been more complicated than that.
I also used the word monkey to describe my baby mama. It turns out it's also a little bit more complicated than that.
Secretary Clinton used several different servers and administrators of those servers during her 4 years at the State Department.
Barack Obama knew about it.
Mr. President, when did you first learn that Hillary Clinton used an email system outside the U.S. government for official business while she was Secretary of State?
And she also used numerous mobile devices to send and to read email on that personal domain.
At the same time, everybody else learned it through news reports.
As new servers and equipment were employed, older servers were taken out of service, stored, and decommissioned in various ways.
Were you disappointed?
Let me just say that Hillary Clinton is and has been an outstanding public servant.
Piecing all of that back together to gain as full an understanding as possible of the ways in which personal email was used for government work has been a painstaking undertaking, requiring thousands of hours of effort.
She was a great Secretary of State for me.
For example, when one of Secretary Clinton's servers was decommissioned in 2013, the email software was removed. That didn't remove the email content, but it was like removing the frame from a huge unfinished jigsaw puzzle and then dumping all the pieces on the floor.
The policy of my administration is to encourage transparency, and that's why my emails, the BlackBerry that I carry around, all those records are available and archived.
The effect was that millions of email fragments ended up in the server's unused or slack space.
And I'm glad that Hillary is instructed that those emails that had to do with official business need to be disclosed.
We searched through all of it to understand what was there and what parts of the puzzle we could put back together again.
Well, you say that you have the most transparent administration ever. You said it again just a couple of weeks ago.
It's true.
How does this square with that?
FBI investigators also read all of the approximately 30,000 emails that Secretary Clinton provided to the State Department in 2014.
Well, I think that the fact that she's going to be putting them forward will allow us to make sure that people have the information they need.
I wish the DOJ would do the same thing to Donald Trump. Instead of claiming Donald Trump is Al-Qaeda, next, and James Comey hate terrorists.
The Washington Post is reporting that classified documents relating to nuclear weapons were among the items the FBI agents were searching for while on the property.
Because it sounds like James Comey, according to the DOJ IG, did violate some policies, but they're not going to prosecute him. Am I understanding that correctly?
No, because James Comey is part of the Washington machine.
Where an email was assessed as possibly containing classified information, the FBI referred that email to any government agency that might be an owner of that information.
The Inspector General finished its report, found that Director Comey should not have passed along information that they considered confidential, though not classified.
And look, Laura, this is a very, very serious allegation. This is the kind of thing that government does not screw around about.
Unless you're part of the Washington machine.
So that agency can make a determination as to whether the email contained classified information at the time it was sent or received, or whether there was reason to classify it now, even if the content had not been classified when it was first sent or received.
Meaning DOJ can reclassify and declassify information on the spot. I wonder, after Donald Trump having them records for 2 years, how many records did they reclassify on the spot?
And obviously, the idea of nuclear secrets being held in an insecure way at Mar-a-Lago is just extraordinary.
Especially for 2 years.
We've heard 3 days of gaslighting from the former president and his supporters, right?
Yeah, bitch, and I'm one of them. And I'm not gaslighting, I'm red lighting. You sons of bitches lies. Next! Your lies and your reclassifications.
From the group of 30,000 emails returned to the State Department in 2014, 110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received.
So Hillary Clinton said it wasn't classified information, but the senders and the receivers said it was classified information. Ain't that a bitch? Next! What was top secret? Was there any top secret information, emails?
8 of those chains contained information that was top secret at the time they were sent.
Well, yeah. So the three laws. I'll read you the three federal codes. One is 793. That's known as the Espionage Act, gathering, transmitting, or losing defense information.
Top secret is really important. It isn't classified that way unless there's an expectation that it could cause exceptional damage to the national security. Wolf, that's serious.
The idea of nuclear secrets, that was the phrase you used. And so I just want to be clear for the audience, what kind of documents, could they be referring to? I mean, what would a former president have in terms of the possession of what they would have seen? Could there be documents? Is there any such thing as sort of a benign related nuclear document?
Don't ask her, ask Comey.
36 of those chains contained secret information at the time, and 8 contained confidential information at the time. That's the lowest level of classification.
Even things that you and I might consider to be benign, Laura, could also hold within it the secret, some information that in the wrong hands would end up revealing something about U.S. Sources and methods.
One of the United States methods is reclassifying records according to political party.
For example, there was one detail that really caught my eye in the Washington Post report, which was a single source they attributed to the fact that some signals intelligence was also possibly collected as part of the FBI search.
If you're Hillary, it's a misdemeanor. If you're Donald Trump, it's damn near treason.
Separate from those, about 2,000 additional emails were upclassified to make them confidential. Those emails had not been classified at the time that they were sent or received.
That is the most top secret, kind of espionage that the U.S. has, eavesdropping potentially on foreign leaders. Again, extraordinary allegations.
The FBI also discovered several thousand work-related emails that were not among the group of 30,000 emails returned by Secretary Clinton to state in 2014.
To turn an ex-president into bin Laden.
Laura, you had to have an informant because you had to have someone who knew there were still documents left over after the agents came and retrieved the previous boxes.
And not no top secret.
We found those emails in a variety of ways. Some had been deleted over the years, and we found traces of them on servers or devices that have been connected to the private email domain.
But they saying Donald Trump is the criminal. Ain't that a bitch?
And so whoever exposed this is someone inside Trump's inner circle, and that's got to be really bothering the former president. He demands complete loyalty, even though his loyalty is a one-way street.
Not with MAGA. It's a wide open freeway. Next! And the Democrats got a wide open freeway with lies and corruption, especially with Adam Schiff's little brother, James Comey.
Others we found by reviewing the archived government accounts of people who'd been government employees at the same time.
The New York Times recently reported that the FBI had found a troubling email among the ones the Russians hacked from Democrat operatives.
As Secretary Clinton, including high-ranking officials at other agencies, folks with whom a Secretary of State might normally correspond.
The email reportedly provided assurances that Attorney General Lynch would protect Secretary Clinton by making sure the FBI investigation, quote unquote, didn't go too far.
This helped us recover work-related emails that were not among the 30,000 that were produced to state.
How and when did you first learn of this document? Also, who sent it and who received it?
Still others we recovered from that painstaking review of the millions of email fragments dumped into the Slack space of the server that was decommissioned in 2013.
Code 1519, this is destruction, alteration, falsification of records in federal investigations. This is an obstruction statute.
Something Hillary Clinton knows so well. Hillary Clinton know obstruction like I know time. Is going to send me a donation.
With respect to the thousands of emails we found that were not among those produced to the State Department, agencies have concluded that 3 of those were classified at the time they were sent or received, 1 at the secret level and 2 at the confidential level.
Were they upgrading or downgrading? Next! We know what they was doing to Hillary.
There were no additional top secret emails found. And finally, none of those we found have since been upclassified.
How many in Mar-a-Lago been upclassified?
I should add here that we found no evidence that any of the additional work-related emails were intentionally deleted in an effort to conceal them in some way.
They was accidentally deleted to conceal the liberal way. Next! Just like your information. Damn Hillary Clinton emails, where your emails at?
To a friend, that would be the law professor Daniel Richman, who then leaked that to the press.
But you forgot to classify it, so it's just regular information. It's not classified. So when you give that information to other people, you won't be considered a whistleblower.
That was the information about his one-on-one conversation with the president when the president suggested that he let the whole Michael Flynn thing go.
But Adam Schiff's little brother, James Comey, forgot to classify his conversation with the president as classified.
So the inspector general said he should not have done that. They referred the matter to the Justice Department, and the Justice Department said that they declined to prosecute.
Because it was only Donald Trump information that he leaked.
One thing they said is that former Director Comey failed to live up to his responsibility by not safeguarding sensitive information.
Him and Hillary Clinton.
Our assessment is that, like many email users, Secretary Clinton periodically deleted emails, or emails were purged from her system when devices were changed.
And your ass lied about it to cover your ass, didn't you?
That's not a question I can answer in this forum, Mr. Chairman, because it would call for a classified response. Because she was not using a government account or even a commercial account like Gmail, there was no archiving at all of her emails. So it's not surprising that we discovered emails that were not on Secretary Clinton's system in 2014 when she produced those 30,000 some emails to state. I have briefed leadership of the intelligence committees on that particular issue. It could also be that some of the additional work-related emails that we've recovered were among those deleted as personal by her lawyers when they reviewed and sorted her emails for production in late 2014. But I can't talk about it here. The lawyers doing the sorting for Secretary Clinton in 2014 did not individually read the content of all of her emails as we did for those available to us.
You can expect me to follow up with you on that point.
And that's exactly why the Republicans need to take over the House to get subpoena power. That way they can update the Democrat status to criminal.
Instead, they relied on header information, and they used search terms to try to find all work-related emails among the reportedly more than 60,000 that were remaining on her system at the end of 2014.
Hillary Clinton lawyers is more sloppy than my baby mama armpit hair.
It's highly likely that their search missed some work-related emails and that we later found them, for example, in the mailboxes of other officials or in the Slack space of a server.
And you can find the correspondence to Hunter Biden emails the same way. Next! Hillary Clinton is way smarter than Hunter Biden, at least when it comes to erasing emails. According to Joe Biden, Hunter Biden is the smartest person on earth.
It's also likely that there are other work-related emails that they did not produce to state and that we did not find elsewhere and that are now gone.
And then there's the 2071, which is concealment and mutilation of federal documents.
Because they deleted all emails they did not produce to state, and the lawyers then cleaned their devices in such a way as to preclude complete forensic recovery.
What's interesting about, especially, if you look at the 793, which is the Espionage Act, the National Defense Information, it doesn't really turn on whether, the items are declassified. It doesn't turn on whether you have authority to possess these documents.
We have conducted interviews and done technical examination to attempt to understand exactly how that sorting was done by her attorneys.
So the federal government, according to this document, the prosecutors of the Justice Department are investigating possible crimes. This is the proof they gave to a federal judge to say, we believe at Mar-a-Lago there were crimes, evidence of these crimes.
If not, we're going to upgrade them to B. The Democrats going to upgrade Donald Trump classification paper like Larry McCray is going to upgrade the quality of my weed. Next! Larry McCray, where in the hell is the emails?
Well, Senator Grassley did follow up with a number of other senators who wanted to know the genesis of this record, and they also wanted to understand how it got into the public domain.
Although we don't have complete visibility because we're not able to fully reconstruct the electronic record of that sorting, we believe our investigation has been sufficient to give us reasonable confidence there was no intentional misconduct in connection with that sorting effort.
I checked in with Grassley's office late yesterday, and they confirmed to me that they got a lot of pushback, a lot of stonewalling in their view from the FBI about this record. And based on my reporting yesterday, they had never seen the record in question.
And of course, in addition to our technical work, we interviewed many people, from those involved in setting up the personal email system and maintaining the various iterations of Secretary Clinton's server, to staff members with whom she corresponded on email, to those involved in the email production to state, and finally, Secretary Clinton herself.
And the reason this investigation matters is because it goes to the issue of classified information, the leaking of that information, what kind of damage can be caused, and whether the rules for leaking classified information are applied in an equal sense.
We're about to find out.
The prosecutors are doing is saying that this was a violation of the law simply because by putting these documents, which could harm the United States, these are national defense information documents, that you are violating the law. So you could violate the law even if you, as former president, declassified them, which is, I think, is what he's going to argue.
I guess that answers our question. Next!
Last, we have done extensive work to try to understand what indications there might be of compromise by hostile actors in connection with that personal email system.
We've seen a number of prosecutions here in Washington, D.C. over leaks of a lesser degree, if you will. So the question is whether, if they identify the source of the classified leak, will it be held to the full standard under the law?
Yeah.
So what this means is that you can break the law even if Donald Trump has already said, you know, I hereby wave a wand and I've declassified things.
Which he has the wand power to do. Next! But Hillary didn't. She wasn't supposed to have no damn wand.
So that's what we've done. Now let me tell you what we found. Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information, there is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information.
And then is it common, Catherine, to investigate a leak years after it goes public?
For example, 7 email chains concern matters that were classified at the top secret special access program at the time they were sent and received.
What I know through my reporting, Tanya, is that when the Republicans controlled the House, they pushed over a number of criminal referrals for consideration by the Justice Department and the FBI to consider investigating, and one of them had to do with leaks coming out of the FBI.
Well, part 2 of the referrals is coming in November when the Republicans take over the House and get impeachment power.
Those chains involve Secretary Clinton both sending emails about those matters and receiving emails about those same matters.
What I understand is that these leaks investigations have been ongoing, and they've been covering activities in 2016 and also 2017.
There is evidence to support a conclusion that any reasonable person in Secretary Clinton's position or in the position of those with whom she was corresponding about those matters should have known that an unclassified system was no place for that conversation.
So we've had a number of them come to a conclusion. As you mentioned, leading into this segment, Director Comey's handling of the memos that kickstarted the Russia probe, that was completed. There was no prosecution there. But these others are becoming ripe, if you will, and now they're starting to move on.
In addition to this highly sensitive information, we also found information that was properly classified as secret by the U.S. intelligence community at the time it was discussed on email. That is, excluding any later up-classified emails.
So I would argue that 2 years is actually not a lot of time when you're talking about a federal investigation, and leaks are so difficult in terms of identifying the source.
Especially if the source is against a conservative, and then it's damn near impossible.
None of these emails should have been on any kind of unclassified system, but their presence is especially concerning because all of these emails were housed on unclassified personal servers, not even supported by full-time security staff like those found at agencies and departments of the United States government, or even with a commercial email service like Gmail.
Which means I could have hacked Hillary Clinton emails. Next! But I couldn't get to Donald Trump documents unless I had an army.
What's important about this is that they're using specific laws that could inoculate their investigation from what we expect to be the surefire Donald Trump defense, which is, I declassified everything. By saying so, I automatically declassified things.
I think it's also important to say something about the marking of classified information. Only a very small number of the emails here containing classified information bore markings that indicated the presence of classified information.
Of course, we know it's a little more complicated than that, but that's where we know Donald Trump is going to go. We can already see that in some of his defenses.
So did Donald Trump go through every box and check every document himself?
But even if information is not marked classified in an email, participants who know or should know that the subject matter is classified are still obligated to protect it.
Here.
Evan, that's very interesting and an important point, because now we do have these timestamps. But back to your original point, if the former president didn't necessarily break the law, just to use layman's terms, because of, or this wasn't precipitated because of his possession of any classified information, what would be the potential area where he did break the law?
And maybe that's a question you should ask China. Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay?
Bitch, once again, ask James Comey.
And while not the focus of our investigation, we also developed evidence that the security culture of the State Department, in general, and with respect to the use of unclassified systems in particular, was generally lacking in the kind of care for classified information that's found elsewhere in the U.S. government.
Well, what this means is that it doesn't matter that it was classified or not. What they're trying to say, by presenting these statutes as the reason for doing this search, what the prosecutors are doing is saying that this was a violation of the law simply because by putting these documents, which could harm the United States, these are national defense information documents, that you are violating the law.
So really, we're exactly where we were when we started all of this, that the Justice Department will not prosecute this. But the Inspector General did take some time to explain why he shouldn't have done this. One thing they said is that former Director Comey failed to live up to his responsibility.
So you could violate the law even if you, as former president, declassified them, which is, I think, is what he's going to argue.
Yeah.
So what this means is that you can break the law even if Donald Trump has already said, I hereby wave a wand and I've declassified things.
That bitch Hillary Clinton didn't have no wand. Beth Roberts. Hillary Clinton don't have no wand. She usually have a pillow and some rope so she can Jeffrey Epstein you.
With respect to potential computer intrusion by hostile actors, we did not find direct evidence that Secretary Clinton's personal email domain, in its various configurations since 2009, was hacked successfully.
And it's saying that is could create public pressure for other FBI employees and the many thousands of former FBI employees who similarly have access to or knowledge of non-public information.
But given the nature of the system and of the actors potentially involved, we assess we would be unlikely to see such direct evidence.
That he's setting a bad precedent and that he should have known better as FBI director.
We do assess that hostile actors gained access to the private commercial email accounts of people with whom Secretary Clinton was in regular contact from her personal account.
By Anthony Weiner, Hillary Clinton didn't get hacked. Her information got hacked from a third party.
We also assess that Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email domain was both known by a large number of people and readily apparent.
Especially by China, Russia, and WikiLeaks.
She also used her personal email extensively while outside the United States, including sending and receiving work-related emails in the territory of sophisticated adversaries.
They tell your information can get hacked on a damn cell phone when you're out in public. Hillary Clinton should know better.
Given that combination of factors, we assess it is possible that hostile actors gained access to Secretary Clinton's personal email account.
It would be impossible to say they didn't. Next! And it would be impossible for James Comey to say he didn't leak information.
I will say, though, Hallie, it's interesting to see what Director Comey said in his own interviews with the Inspector General, which they do include here. They put this exact thing to him, said, why would you do this? This was in your own personal interest to leak this.
and not the interest of the country.
And he said that he would frame it differently, that he viewed the issue as one of incredible importance to the nation as a whole.
But more important to Democrats as a party.
And that he took this action because it's something he had to do for the love of this country.
Democrats love our country. Since when?
And that he loves the Justice Department and the FBI and was trying to preserve their integrity in this.
James Comey couldn't preserve the FBI integrity if he froze it. Next! Because James Comey ain't got no integrity his damn self.
Under my watch, that is precisely what the Justice Department is doing.
So that's what we found. Finally, with respect to our recommendation to the Department of Justice. In our system, the prosecutors make the decisions about whether charges are appropriate based on evidence that the FBI helps collect.
And the FBI collected terrorist evidence at Mar-a-Lago.
All Americans are entitled to the even-handed application of the law, to due process of the law, and to the presumption of innocence.
Although we don't normally make public our recommendations to the prosecutors, we frequently make recommendations and engage in productive conversations with prosecutors about what resolution may be appropriate given the evidence.
And the only resolution you want is for Donald Trump not to run again.
In this case, given the importance of the matter, I think unusual transparency is in order. Although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case.
Unless it's Donald Trump, then you charge him with espionage.
Prosecutors necessarily weigh a number of factors before deciding whether to bring charges. There are obvious considerations like the strength of the evidence, especially regarding intent. Responsible decisions also consider the context of a person's actions and how similar situations have been handled in the past.
We'll consider that in the future now, fair treatment under the law.
Can you explain something here, Julia? Because the department clearly says, or the IG report clearly says, that Comey violated policies by releasing sensitive information, as they call it.
The whole Democrat Party is sensitive. They always crying about something.
Big distinction. I mean, Hallie, you and I get information from sources every day that is sensitive, things that they probably, only get in their own jobs that isn't going out to the public, but it's not classified. It's not putting someone in danger. It's not giving up sources for the United States that provide us with information every day. It's not classified. It's sensitive.
And Donald Trump was about to give sensitive information to Russia. Next!
In looking back at our investigations into the mishandling or removal of classified information, we cannot find a case that would support bringing criminal charges on these facts.
Until Mar-a-Lago got raided.
Jim Jordan, who has been at the forefront of much of this discussion, has released a statement now on this IG report, and he says it is a disappointing reminder that the former FBI director put partisanship and personal ambition over patriotism.
Which he has none of. Vanessa. James Comey got as much patriotism in him as my grandmother got red in her house. Next!
All the cases prosecuted involved some combination of clearly intentional and willful mishandling of classified information.
I think if you want to attack the former FBI director, who was the person who launched the entire investigation that became the Mueller investigation, this report does give you a lot of fodder for that.
Or vast quantities of information exposed in such a way as to support an inference of intentional misconduct, or indications of disloyalty to the United States, or efforts to obstruct justice. We do not see those things here.
Because it talks about how James Comey's intentions behind the leaks of these memos were to try to kind of create his own personal narrative.
To be clear, this is not to suggest that in similar circumstances, a person who engaged in this activity would face no consequences.
They counter this idea that this was for the love of country and really say it had more to do with the love of his own image that he was trying to save. So there's a lot Republicans can work with, but at the end of the day, they don't have anything that's a prosecutable offense. And really, he didn't do anything out of line with what a lot of whistleblowers do throughout Washington.
To the contrary, those individuals are often subject to security or administrative sanctions, but that's not what we're deciding now.
Tony B. Hopefully, I'm deciding next week on what suit to wear to my baby mama funeral. Next!
As a result, although the Department of Justice makes final decisions on matters like this, we are expressing to Justice our view that no charges are appropriate in this case.
Joe Biden make the final decision on this too, but he gonna say he don't know, and they gonna say he had nothing to do with it.
I know there will be intense public debate in the wake of this recommendation, as there was throughout the investigation. What I can assure the American people is that this investigation was done honestly, competently, and independently.
That's why your ass was getting investigated, because the FBI is so perfect. You sound like A.G. Garland.
Since I became Attorney General, I have made clear that the Department of Justice will speak through its court filings and its work.
And through lie and deceit.
No outside influence of any kind was brought to bear.
You can't say that today.
This raid was about trying to disqualify a likely future election opponent, about trying to intimidate Republicans who oppose the left, and about creating a distraction from Biden's failures.
The department did not make any public statements on the day of the search. The former president publicly confirmed the search that evening, as is his right.
Good evening. After days of increasingly violent rhetoric against the FBI on right-wing social media and elsewhere, in the wake of the FBI's search of the former president's Florida mansion and attempts to discredit the Bureau by Republican lawmakers and certain cable channels, it now appears we've seen the first deadly consequences.
He wasted no time, as all of America saw, throwing law enforcement under the bus to suggest that the top law enforcement agency, during an execution of a lawful, orderly, peaceful, well-coordinated search warrant, he likened that to a third world Marxist dictatorship. It's just irresponsible, it's disgraceful, and it's dangerous.
Oh shit, I know where this is going.
An armed man killed in a shootout after trying to breach the FBI's Cincinnati office.
That's stupid. Why did he do that?
And we won't hear anything from him now as he tried to discredit the FBI, those of the Justice Department, and others.
The search warrant was authorized by a federal court upon the required finding of probable cause.
Did you forget to mention the judge was a Obama supporter?
The property receipt is a document that federal law requires law enforcement agents to leave with the property owner. The department filed the motion to make public the warrant and receipt in light of the former president's public confirmation of the search, the surrounding circumstances, and the substantial public interest in this matter.
Someone whose name is on a social media account spelling out in vivid detail the war he apparently believed he was launching.
His rhetoric, along with the dangerous rhetoric of others, is dangerous.
The Democrat playbook is so predictable.
We've learned from multiple sources that the suspect's name is Ricky Schiffer, 42 years old. Investigators are still trying to figure out if he has what kind of a connection he may have with right-wing extremist groups.
He did not wait or give them the benefit of the doubt. We saw what happened today in Ohio.
But what happened earlier today was at the Cincinnati field office of the FBI. Schiffer walked in there, according to our sources, armed with an AR-15 style rifle and a nail gun, and tried to breach that office.
Shown to everybody in Florida, the nation, and quite frankly, the world, that he will say and do anything for political gain, including ruining the reputation, ruining the integrity of career justice people, judges, FBI agents, and others.
An alarm was sounded. He was pursued by law enforcement, not just on the federal side, but the local and state as well. And there was a standoff for several hours in rural area of Ohio.
Florida really could use a real leadership in the Senate. If you believe that as well, please, I'm talking to your viewers, please go to valdemings.com and support my campaign.
Bitch, you riding the back of a Donald Trump raid so you can campaign off of it? Next! I told you the Democrats' playbook is so predictable.
One other thing that stood out to me from this document real quick, Dana, is, the document says that the judge is authorizing the FBI to show up anytime from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
With James Touche, Well, James Touche show up every damn day. James Touche is way more dependable than the FBI.
We know that the FBI showed up around 10 a.m. It gives you a sense of the deference they were giving to the former president for the office that he held. They could have gone in there with their FBI jackets. They came in with suits and ties. They came around 10 a.m. They were trying to not make this a spectacle. He is the one that went out, around right after the FBI left the premises and blasted out his statement and has sort of created a spectacle of what had happened.
If he didn't, your ass wouldn't be on CNN giving legal advice right now.
But you know something, Wolf? Nixon was an institutionalist. He wouldn't attack the FBI or the Department of Justice in just the blatant and blind way that Trump is.
So Trump not supposed to fight back. He's supposed to just sit there and take it with no Vaseline.
Which ended when law enforcement tried to have non-lethal ways of sort of bringing him in, tried to negotiate with him, but then he was killed in this standoff when none of that was working.
He knew those people. Maybe it's because Trump has never been in Washington, never worked with the people or really known them.
And like you said, we have come across a user account on Donald Trump's social media site, Truth Social, bearing the same name of Ricky Schiffer, and authorities have not confirmed it's his account, but we do have one source telling my colleague Josh Campbell that there is a government ID matching the same picture.
But these are hardworking people who really have the best interests of the country in mind.
And in at least one post, he actually talks about, this user talks about what happened at the FBI field office today. I want to read for you word for word what this post says. It says, well, I thought I had a way through bulletproof glass and I didn't. If you don't hear from me, it is true. I tried attacking the FBI and it'll mean either I was taken off the internet, the FBI got me, or they sent the regular cops wild.
So I think Trump's attacks are so far off base, as are the Republican Party.
It just sort of ends there. This post was actually about 15 minutes after we learned that this person breached the FBI office. So it's possible this person on the account wasn't able to finish.
Good. We should finish it by voting, not by violence.
That thought. And if you look deeper into this social media account, which is actually fairly new, there's not too many posts on there. There is just a ton of violent rhetoric against the FBI.
Ain't nobody gonna follow his lead. Don't worry about nothing, liberals.
This person said they were in Washington on...
Hold on, we can't say that date.
And there are several posts from this user talking about how they believe the election of Donald Trump in 2020.
Hold on, we can't mention that lie. YouTube is listening. Next!
There are, however, certain points I want you to know.
What, you still mad that your ass is not a judge?
First, I personally approved the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter.
CNN said you didn't, and they also said Joe Biden don't know. I don't know who to believe. Next! And it's definitely not you.
Second, the department does not take such a decision lightly. Where possible, it is standard practice to seek less intrusive means as an alternative to a search and to narrowly scope any search that is undertaken.
Did the users' postings become more violent after Monday's search in Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah, they did. And actually, there was a post hours after the news broke about the search by the FBI of Mar-a-Lago. I want to read that to you. It says, people, this is it. I hope a call to arms comes from someone better qualified, but if not, this is your call to arms from me.
Third, let me address recent unfounded attacks on the professionalism of the FBI and Justice Department agents and prosecutors.
And this person encourages people to go get guns, go to pawn shops, to take up arms with federal authorities. And the rhetoric gets even more violent, saying, even the next day, saying, go to Mar-a-Lago. And if you face any FBI agents,
I will not stand by silently when their integrity is unfairly attacked. The department filed the motion to make public the warrant and receipt in light of the former president's public confirmation of the search, the surrounding circumstances, and the substantial public interest in this matter. The men and women of the FBI and the Justice Department are dedicated, patriotic public servants.
Attorney General said all this in motion without revealing a single detail about the investigation, something the Justice Department almost never has.
Every day, they protect the American people from violent crime, terrorism, and other threats to their safety while safeguarding our civil rights.
The former president has had, frankly, the ground to himself, right? He has had the ability to fashion the narrative.
They do so at great personal sacrifice and risk to themselves.
Threats against FBI agents. We've seen attacks against their credibility.
I am honored to work alongside them.
Attacks saying that the FBI may have planted some evidence, and that's what really helped inform what the Attorney General did today.
What, lied to America?
Now, the documents that we're going to get is probably not going to tell us a lot of the underlying information about this investigation, but it will tell us a few things about what the FBI took during that search, as well as possibly what crimes they are investigating.
This is all I can say right now. More information will be made available in the appropriate way and at the appropriate time.
And that's when Donald Trump runs again. Hey, what's up? Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I know you did. But if you want to donate to your favorite comedian, that will be me. You can leave me a Cash App or a PayPal, or you can donate somewhere on YouTube. Anything counts. Everything is good. Nothing is too little, and shit, nothing is too big either. But if you want to send me a donation, all you got to do is look at the bottom of this video, and the link will be down below. I accept food stamps too. If you got food stamps or weed, I accept weed too. Anyway, I'm out. See you on the next video, because I'm through with this video.
Whoa, hang on a second.
He said what now? What did he say?
And maybe that's a question you should ask China. Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay?
Hey, Chuck, what did he say? Hey, I'm walking in the house right now.